If you're here, it means something inside you is already waking up, and what you're about to learn, once it's understood, can't be undone. This isn't visualization. It's not manifestation. It's a technique drawn from one of the most powerful ancient systems ever written. Once practiced, it alters how you move, breathe, and exist. The path opens now, and once you step through, there's no going back, because that quiet, insistent pulse inside you, that faint whisper you've heard all your life, is stirring. It's not asking for permission. It's not waiting for an invitation. It is power, not borrowed, not given, born within. That power is Shakti, but not the way it's been diluted in polite conversation or misinterpreted as a gentle cosmic mother. No, Evola understood something different, something dangerous. To him, Shakti wasn't a goddess to be worshipped. She was a flame to be kindled, harnessed, and survived. So let's begin there with the truth most aren't ready to hear. You've been taught to think of power as something external, a job title, a position, a role you play to earn approval. But that's not power, that's performance. Shakti, in its rawest essence, isn't symbolic. It's not an archetype. It is the underlying, animating, catalytic force of existence. And once you recognize it, not just in theory, but in sensation, your life will divide into two halves, before and after. Before, when you sought comfort in ideas, and after, when those ideas began to burn. Because here's what no one tells you. Awakening energy isn't gentle. It doesn't arrive with soft music and incense. It arrives like a storm, tearing the roof off your safe little house. It destroys what no longer serves. Your attachments, your illusions, your excuses. It reveals, in frightening clarity, who you really are when nothing is left to hide behind. Have you ever felt it? That strange pressure in your chest when you're on the edge of change? That rising fire in your gut when something false demands your silence? That moment where you almost say, enough, but stop yourself. That's her. That's Shakti. She is not waiting to be called. She is waiting to be released. And here's the secret of Olanu. Shakti doesn't just live in the mystical, in the sacred. She lives in your breath, in your spine, in your eyes. When you finally tell the truth, she is not feminine in the cultural sense. She is not masculine either. She is becoming itself, raw, electric, and absolute. To step into this path, to begin walking with Shakti consciously, is to cross a threshold that can't be uncrossed. You don't get to awaken and go back to sleep. You don't get to dabble in your own becoming. Once the fire starts, it demands fuel. Evola didn't sugarcoat this. He didn't see Tantra or Shakti as sweet or accessible or beginner-friendly. He saw it as a rite of inner combustion, a sacred, strategic burning away of everything that made you powerless. And in that fire, the true self is forged, not in bliss, but in intensity, not in calm, but in clarity. Let me ask you something personal. Have you felt like parts of you were trying to break through, but couldn't? Like there's a version of you that's always been just behind the curtain? A bolder, deeper, freer you? Then consider this your invitation. But be warned, this isn't a comfort practice. It is not self-care. It is not spiritual entertainment. It is not about fitting into some polished version of healing. It is a fire ritual of the self. And every ritual has a cost. Because here's what happens when Shakti awakens. She doesn't just hand you power. She confronts you with everything in you that misused it. All the ways you gave it away. All the compromises. All the moments you betrayed your own knowing. She shows you, without pity, what needs to be broken and what needs to be rebuilt. And if you stay, if you don't run back to comfort or distraction, you begin to change. You'll notice the shift first in your body, a kind of internal tension, as if you're holding a voltage you don't fully understand. It might keep you up at night. It might make you emotional for no clear reason. It might draw you towards silence, solitude, strange books, or long walks with no destination. This is the beginning. You're starting to see reality without the filter of who you thought you had to be. And that's where this teaching, this tantric knowing, departs from the modern spiritual trend, because it doesn't offer you an identity to wear. It offers you a fire to step into, and in that fire you don't get a reward, you get yourself, raw, real, and unrepeatable. Now, let's be honest, this path will cost you. People will misunderstand you. Old patterns will fall away. You'll feel untethered, but what you lose is only what was never really yours to begin with. What you gain is the thing you've been aching for in secret: sovereignty. Not the kind given by a teacher or a lineage, the kind forged by your own will, your own breath, your own choice to remember who you are. That's what Evola meant when he spoke of Shakti, not as symbol, but as ignition, not as an idea, but as the becoming of being. You don't pray to her, you become her, or rather you allow what's always been latent to finally move through you. You may be thinking, why me? Why now? Because you're ready, even if you don't feel like it. Some part of you brought you here. Some part of you chose to hear this. And that part, the quiet, strong one, is your initiation. So take a breath, not a calming breath, a claiming one. Inhale, like you're taking back something that's yours. Exhale, like you're done apologizing. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are becoming. And this path doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence, for practice, for the courage to walk through the fire without knowing what's on the other side. And what is on the other side, we don't give that away, because it's not a thing to be described. It's a force to be embodied. So if your skin is tingling, if your heart is racing a little, if you feel like something ancient has just stirred within you, then congratulations. The doorway just opened. But there's no turning back now. Let's move forward into the next chapter, where we meet the path Evola described. Not one of softness, but of structure. Not romantic, but radical. Not external, but internal. The path of tantric activation. The fire has been lit. Now we learn how to wield it. But before we walk further, feel into something. Shakti isn't linear. She doesn't move like logic. She spirals. She contracts before she expands. She tests you before she reveals anything. The more you want to rush ahead, the more she forces you to slow down, to feel, to notice what you've ignored. You may begin to experience synchronicities, dreams that leave a residue, strangers who say something that strikes a deep nerve, bodily sensations that feel like memories trying to reawaken. Don't dismiss them. This is how she speaks, not in language, but in signs, in symbols, in energy. And your job is not to analyze, it's to listen. There's a reason ancient initiations always included disorientation. When the ego no longer has its normal bearings, something deeper can finally emerge, something more honest, more instinctual. That's Shakti's domain. Not clarity first, but combustion first. Not answers, but disruption. This early phase of the journey is the threshold of power. It's not where you gain control, it's where you begin to surrender your control to something greater, something older than the persona you've performed. Expect discomfort. Expect days where you doubt everything. Expect your old motivations to crumble, because they have to. They were never yours. They were given, inherited, imposed. Shakti wants what is true, and she'll strip you down until that's all that's left. This is not cruelty, this is purification. And while it can feel like chaos, beneath it is perfect order. Not order you can force, but order you can trust. Let yourself fall into it, because as the illusions begin to fall, something stunning begins to rise. The real you, not the fixed identity, but the ever-emerging essence. A being not built on approval, but on presence. And presence is power. This is where Shakti starts to teach. Not through words, but through direct experience. You'll feel her in your spine, in the tension between desire and fear, in the silence between your thoughts. If you can stay there just a moment longer than you want to, she will meet you, and that meeting changes everything. Welcome to the fire. Welcome to yourself. And once you've met that fire, once you've felt the raw pulse of Shakti awaken inside, the path forward demands more than just surrender. It demands mastery. Not mastery of the world around you, but mastery of the war within. The fierce battle between impulse and discipline, chaos and order, light and shadow. To understand this next step, we turn to Tantra as Evola saw it, a system stripped of softness and sentiment, a harsh discipline of self-transcendence. To speak of Tantra is to invite misunderstanding. To speak of it through Evola's lens is to invite a storm, because Evola didn't romanticize Tantra. He didn't reduce it to sensuality or the exoticism of the East. He stripped it bare, revealed it as a system of inner war, not inner peace. This is not a tradition of gentle alignment or floating away into bliss. It is about confrontation, direction, force. The masculine path of tantric activation begins not in union, but in fracture. It begins with the realization that what you've called power so far has been performance, and what you've called awakening has been sedation. This is where the polarity flips, not toward a partner, but within yourself. You are not here to seek balance by finding someone else to complete you. You are here to polarize your own energy until it becomes indivisible. The masculine current in Tantra isn't about domination, nor is it about control in the shallow sense. It's about the deep discipline of holding presence when everything inside you wants to collapse. It's about choosing to stand in the fire rather than retreat into comfort. Evola understood that this path is not safe. It is sacred, precisely because it is dangerous. So let's begin with the core premise. Transgression, not for shock value or rebellion, but as initiation. Evola saw transgression as a sacred tool, an inner sword used to cut through false identity, cultural programming, and emotional conditioning. He believed that only through confronting and consciously crossing your internal boundaries could you encounter the real self. But this wasn't about chaos. It was a structured violation, a surgical breaking, not the freedom of indulgence, but the freedom of becoming unbound. And here's the hardest truth. Most people never do it. They read, they listen, they theorize, but they never take that first real step into the ritual of activation because it feels like death. And in some ways, it is the death of who you thought you were, the death of all the stories that kept you small. If chapter 1 was the ignition, chapter 2 is the combustion. Here, we step into the masculine fire, not to burn others, but to burn away everything within us that resists full responsibility. Think about your own life. How much of your behavior is structured around avoiding discomfort, avoiding rejection, avoiding your own capacity to destroy or create? The masculine path in Tantra says, stop hiding, stop waiting, stop begging. Instead, build the inner container strong enough to hold both light and shadow, pleasure and pain, expansion and contraction. You do this not by eliminating polarity, but by mastering it. And that's where polarity becomes key. This is not about choosing one side. It's about wielding both consciously. When Evola speaks of masculine energy, he's not talking about bravado or stoicism. He's pointing to a deeper function, the power to direct energy with precision, to lead your own consciousness rather than be dragged by your unconscious patterns. Inner polarity control means you stop leaking energy through fantasy, distraction, or emotional reactivity. You hold your charge, you build pressure, and then you choose where it goes. This inner pressure is not a problem. It is the forge. Just as a sword is not tempered in cold water, neither are you. You're tempered in fire, your fire. And this fire is not rage. It is will, focused, alert, relentless. It is the kind of will that does not flinch when old wounds arise, that does not collapse when fear screams, that does not apologize for choosing clarity over comfort. Evola's Tantra demands this kind of self-possession, not as a performance, but as practice. Now let's talk about practice, because none of this remains conceptual. Tantric activation happens through practice, breath, stillness, movement, boundaries, awareness. Each act becomes a ritual, a sharpening. Even your gaze becomes a weapon of awareness. You learn to watch yourself, not from judgment, but from power. You study where you flinch, where you fantasize, where you check out. And then, slowly, you stop doing those things. Not by force, by choice, because you want something more real. You may have noticed this path is lonely. It's meant to be, until you know how to be alone with your full spectrum. Your hunger, your sorrow, your lust, your drive. You will keep projecting your unmet needs onto the world. You will mistake craving for connection. Tantra says, stop, sit, feel it all, and don't move until something deeper than emotion begins to stir. This is where real activation begins. Not in ecstasy, but in containment. Not in explosion, but in sovereignty. Evola warned that most people mistake sensation for awakening, that they chase peak experiences, hoping they'll override the void inside. But the masculine path isn't about escape. It's about building a structure strong enough to hold the void without flinching, to remain present in the face of nothingness, to not need constant stimulation to feel alive. This presence, this grounded, alert stillness is the foundation of tantric power, and it is rare because it cannot be faked. Let's go deeper. This path requires confrontation, not with others, but with your own unresolved selves. The one who betrayed your integrity, the one who ran when it got hard, the one who still waits for permission. Evola's system forces you to look at them, not to punish, but to integrate, because until you do, they run your life in the shadows. True masculine activation is shadow work, but not in the trendy sense, in the gut-wrenching, mirror-facing, truth-telling sense. You will begin to notice that old triggers don't hold the same charge, not because you're numb, because you're clear. You will stop seeking approval, not because you don't care, because you've remembered your own authority. You will stop fearing judgment, not because you're arrogant, because you've chosen self-respect over self-protection. This is what Evola meant when he said Tantra was not about liberation from life, but through life. It does not lift you out of form, it hones you within it. The masculine path is not the absence of feeling, it is the containment of it, so it can be directed, so it can serve, so it can build. You begin to Transmute your instincts into strategy, your anger into clarity, your desire into devotion. This is not repression, this is redirection, and it requires an unshakable relationship with reality. Not your fantasy of it, but the brutal, beautiful, chaotic truth of it. Can you meet life on its terms, not yours? Can you be wide open without being knocked off center? That is the test. Eventually, a shift happens. You stop needing Tantra to look a certain way. You stop needing your path to be visible or validated. You become quiet, precise. You act with less noise and more weight. You speak less, but say more. You move slower, but with greater force. The sacred masculine begins to emerge, not as a costume, but as a current. You are no longer looking for the fire. You are the fire, and those around you feel it. And what of union? What of the sacred meeting of energies? It will come, but only once you are no longer fragmented. Only when your inner masculine is strong enough to meet the feminine without trying to fix or possess her. Only when you can meet the storm of Shakti without trying to tame her. Then something else becomes possible. Not romance, but alchemy. Not merging, but magnification. This is why Evola's tantric vision is so demanding, because it refuses shortcuts. It requires you to lead yourself, to discipline your own mind, to choose presence over performance again and again. It's not about rituals, it's about reality. And once you step into that, you don't go back. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unfeel what you've felt. The sword has been drawn. The path is now. So if your breath is heavier, if your spine is straighter, if your attention has narrowed into something sharper than thought, that's not an accident. That's activation. You're not reading this. You're remembering. You're reclaiming. You're returning to a version of yourself that has been waiting, not passive, not wounded, but forged. Welcome to the masculine path. It begins here, but this storm is not chaos without purpose. It is a deliberate tempest, one that demands mastery, a mastery first achieved through the breath. Breath is not a gentle rhythm here. It is a weaponized force, the first tool in the activation of Shakti's power. This is where the technique begins, a ritualized command of your own life, force, the prana that fuels the inner storm. Most people think of breath as something automatic, something to be taken for granted. It's just air, right? No, breath is the axis on which your entire being turns. It is the sacred bridge between the seen and unseen, the body and the spirit. The way you breathe can shatter your limits or chain you to them. To master breath is to seize the reins of the storm raging beneath the surface of your skin. In the ancient tantric tradition, breath is far more than life support. It's a deliberate act of creation and destruction. Each inhale draws in cosmic energy. Each exhale expels what no longer serves. The spaces in between, the holds, are where transformation takes root. This is the heartbeat of the technique. Inhaling with purpose, holding with tension, exhaling with force, and pausing in stillness. This fourfold cycle is known as square breath, and it is your first step toward wielding Shakti's fire. The inhale is the gathering phase. As you pull air deep into your lungs, imagine you're drawing in the very essence of the universe, prana, the raw fuel of life and power. This is not just oxygen, it is pure energy, electric and alive. Feel it flood your body like lightning, filling every cell, every fiber. Your chest rises not simply with air, but with the promise of of transformation. Next comes the first hold, the crucible of the process. Here, you trap the fire inside you, holding your breath steady like a charged battery. It's uncomfortable, sometimes even terrifying. Your mind screams for release. Your body strains against the pressure. But this is where the alchemy happens, where resistance becomes fuel, where tension becomes potential. You learn to sit with discomfort and transmute it into strength. Then the exhale. This is no gentle sigh. It is a deliberate, controlled release of energy. You command the breath out with intention, directing the force where it's needed. Visualize the energy traveling down your spine, up through your crown, or exploding through your hands and feet. The exhale shapes the wild flame, focusing it like a weapon rather than letting it burn uncontrolled. It is the moment of power expressed, the storm unleashed on your terms. The second hold, the pause after exhale, is a stillness pregnant with possibility. It's a moment of deep quiet, the eye of the storm where everything shifts. In this pause, Shakti gathers strength, readying herself for the next cycle. You learn to inhabit this silence, to find comfort in tension and uncertainty. It is here that transformation ripens, quiet, unseen, but unstoppable. Practicing square breath rewires your nervous system. You become less reactive, less swept away by the chaos of life. Your emotions become currents to be navigated, not waves to be drowned by. Fear, desire, pain. They no longer control you. You master the art of riding intensity without losing balance, moving through extremes with a grounded presence that few can claim. This mastery extends beyond the physical. Each breath activates subtle energy centers within you. Chakras, kundalini, energy pathways, long dormant. You can feel heat rising in your spine, a growing fire that consumes old limitations and fuels new possibilities. This isn't destructive fire. It's a sacred flame that burns away the false self and reveals your true power. Breath is also a direct teacher of your relationship with fear and desire. These twin forces are the tension between destruction and creation, chaos and order. When you hold your breath in the face of fear, you expand beyond it. You move into a new realm of courage. When you breathe fully into desire, you don't lose yourself chasing it. You channel it with fierce focus. This is radical energy stewardship. You refuse to be a victim of fleeting impulses and instead become the keeper of your own fire. But mastery of breath is only the beginning. This technique is a gateway, the first step on a path that will take you far beyond ordinary experience. It is initiation by fire, the point of no return. Once you step into this practice, your life will change irrevocably. Your body, mind, and spirit realign on a level few ever achieve. You awaken a power that cannot be undone or ignored. This is Shakti, as Evola saw her, raw, dangerous, alive. To start, find a quiet place where you can sit or lie comfortably. Begin by centering yourself with a slow inhale through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Hold the breath for a count that challenges but does not overwhelm you. Feel the tension building in your chest and belly, in your mind and nerves. Then exhale steadily and fully through your mouth or nose, emptying your lungs completely. Pause before the next inhale, welcoming the silence and stillness. Repeat this cycle, gradually increasing your hold times as your body adapts. Do not rush or strain. This is about mindful presence, not brute force. Over time, you will notice changes. Greater energy, sharper focus, deeper emotional resilience. You will feel the currents of Shakti stirring within you, a fire you can command and direct. This breathwork is not just an exercise, it is a form of prayer and confrontation. It asks you to meet yourself in the rawest form, stripped of distraction and defense. It challenges you to sit with discomfort, to embrace the unknown, and to cultivate a fierce love for your own power. This is the essence of true initiation, burning away illusion to reveal the indomitable spirit beneath. When the breath becomes ritualized, no longer mechanical but sacred, it becomes a beacon, calling forth the ancient power buried within. It shifts your entire experience of reality. You are no longer a passive observer, but an active participant in the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. Your breath becomes the drumbeat of your soul's awakening. Remember, this practice is not for the faint of heart. It demands courage and commitment. It demands that you show up fully, willing to face the storm inside. But it also offers a reward beyond measure, the chance to harness the primal force of Shakti, to live with the fire of the gods burning within you. Once you step onto this path, there is no turning back. The flame is lit, and it will guide you through darkness into a new dawn. Now, this technique has layers, each layer deeper, more intense than the last. The breath is your foundation, but to fully command prana, you must learn to move it, direct it, shape it. Here, the subtle anatomy of the body comes into play. Energy channels known as nadis, and powerful energy centers, the chakras. The spine is the main highway, and within it coils the dormant serpent of kundalini energy, waiting to be awakened by precise breath control and focused intent. In practice, the breath guides this energy upward through the chakras, piercing each threshold of consciousness. With each square breath cycle, you feed the fire, stoke the embers, raise the heat. This rising heat is more than physical warmth. It is a psychic and spiritual ignition. As prana climbs, it breaks down barriers of ego, dissolves old wounds, and reveals hidden reservoirs of strength. This is where breathwork crosses into the realm of ritual. The act becomes ceremonial, a communion with forces older than time. You are no longer just breathing. You are invoking a power that runs through the veins of the cosmos. Each inhalation is a gathering of divine energy. Each exhale, a release of the mundane and limiting. Each hold a sacred pause where transformation is forged. Mastering this ritual demands discipline. It requires regular practice, unwavering focus, and an openness to discomfort and mystery. You may face moments of doubt, fear, or even physical discomfort. These are not obstacles, they are tests, gates to higher states. To pass through, you must surrender the need for control, embrace vulnerability, and trust the process. With time, you will sense the difference in your daily life. Stress will lose its grip. Emotions will clarify, no longer overwhelming or confusing you. Your mind will sharpen, your will harden, and your spirit deepen. You will move through the world with an unshakable presence, rooted in a power awakened from within. This breath is your weapon, your shield, your key. It is the first step in a long journey, one that will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. It calls you to the edge and dares you to step beyond into a fire that burns away weakness and fear and leaves only strength, clarity, and wild, untamed life. So begin now. Find your breath. Make it deliberate. Make it sacred. With each cycle, you fan the flames of Shakti. You command the storm. You become the master of your own inner fire. Welcome to the activation. Welcome to the technique of no return. Breath ignites the fire, but breath alone cannot command it. You felt the power begin to rise, the pulse of prana sparked by the ritualized breath. But that flame, raw, untamed, is still wild. To master Shakti Storm, you need more than wind. You need gates, locks, and switches to channel that raw energy with precision. This is where bandhas and mudras enter the stage. These ancient techniques are not simply physical movements or gentle stretches. They are seals of containment, deliberate closures that hold, intensify, and direct the fierce energy building inside you. Think of them as the reactor's locks, charging and controlling the internal circuits of your body's electric grid. Without these locks, the fire you stoke with your breath will rage wild, wasting power and risking destruction. Bandhas, often translated as locks, are muscular contractions applied at specific points in the body to seal energy within. Mudras, or gestures, are hand positions that act as switches, tuning the flow and frequency of your internal current. Together, they form a system of inner rituals that create a powerful circuit, one that captures the prana ignited by breath and transforms it into controlled force. Evola, cryptic as ever, hinted at these techniques as the key to surviving Shakti's flame, not just harnessing it. Bandhas are deceptively simple in form, but profound in function. They're not exercises for flexibility or strength in the usual sense. They're seals, gates, closing the system tight so energy can't leak away. Imagine your body as a circuit board. Without closing the loop, electricity flows but never builds. Bandhas close the loop. They hold the current like a dam, pressurizing the river beneath the surface until it's ready to explode with power at your command. There are 3 primary bandhas in this practice, each locking energy at a critical juncture. The first is Mula Bandha, the root lock, located deep in the pelvic floor. Contracting this muscle seals the base of your energy system. It's a grounding lock, anchoring the fire so it doesn't scatter. Mula Bandha is subtle but essential. It keeps the wildest impulses from erupting prematurely. Activating it creates a reservoir of force ready to surge upward. The second is Uddiyana Bandha, the abdominal lock. Here, you draw your navel and lower belly inward and upward under the rib cage, creating a powerful vacuum inside. This lock controls the center of your body, intensifying internal pressure and igniting the core furnace of your being. Uddiyana Bandha draws the energy up from the base, helping it rise through the spinal channel. This lock is not for the faint of heart. It requires discipline and awareness, but its effects are transformative. It builds a magnetic field of power in your core. The third is Jalandhara Bandha, the throat lock. By tucking the chin toward the chest, you seal the energy at the neck, preventing its premature escape through the mouth or head. This lock is a final safeguard, controlling the flow as energy ascends toward the crown. It protects the delicate balance of mind and spirit during activation. Jalandhara Bandha is like the valve on a furnace, holding the heat in until the moment it's needed. Each bandha is a distinct lock on your body's internal circuitry, and mastering their simultaneous engagement is a rite of passage. You learn to close these gates smoothly, without strain or tension that blocks flow. Instead, the locks create a sealed chamber of energy that radiates power outward through subtle shifts in posture and breath. When combined with the breathwork of Chapter 3, the bandhas amplify your prana exponentially. You're no longer just breathing fire, you're containing, refining, and directing it. Now, alongside these locks come the mudras, hand gestures that function as switches in this internal energy circuit. Mudras are subtle yet potent. Unlike bandhas, which seal energy in place, mudras guide its direction, frequency, and quality. Each finger position creates a unique energy pattern, opening pathways and activating centers. Mudras act like tuning forks, matching your inner vibration with specific cosmic frequencies. Some mudras are simple, like the classical Gyan mudra, touching the tip of the index finger to the thumb, which enhances concentration and calm, allowing the inner fire to burn without chaos. Others are more complex, sealing the fingertips together in patterns that circulate energy through different channels or chakras. Mudras often accompany mantra or visualization, but even silent, still mudras carry a charge. They're silent codes that command energy to behave in precise ways. Evola's references to bandhas and mudras were cryptic but suggestive, hints that mastery of these locks and gestures was necessary to survive the activation of Shakti. To him, these practices were more than physical. They were rituals, embedding intention and discipline deep into the body's electric system. They weren't just techniques, they were rites of passage that separated the initiated from the unprepared. To begin integrating bandhas into your practice, start simple. When you inhale deeply, engage Mula Bandha gently. Feel the subtle contraction of the pelvic floor as you hold your breath. This root lock stabilizes the energy at the foundation. With practice, this contraction becomes automatic, a subtle seal that holds your core power. Next, with the exhale or hold phase, draw in your abdomen for Uddiyana Bandha. This is often more challenging. It requires drawing the lower belly in and slightly upward, creating tension and a hollowing sensation beneath the rib cage. This lock requires training and patience. Avoid forcing it. Rather, cultivate awareness of the abdominal space and work toward control. Over time, this lock channels the prana rising through your core, intensifying the internal fire. Finally, close the cycle with Jalandhara Bandha by tucking your chin slightly down, lengthening the back of your neck. This locks the energy from escaping too quickly through your throat. Jalandhara Bandha also supports the nervous system, calming the mind as energy rises. Once you can engage these three locks together, root, abdomen, and throat, you create a sealed container for your prana, a furnace where Shakti's fire can be safely ignited and stoked. This triad of locks is the cornerstone of internal discipline. Mudras can be layered on top of this foundation to refine and direct the energy further. One of the simplest and most powerful mudras to practice is the Adi Mudra, folding the thumb inside the palm and curling the fingers over it. This mudra is known to stimulate the vagus nerve and create a calming effect, perfect for balancing the intense energy you build with breath and bandhas. It acts as a switch, tuning the nervous system and deepening your connection to prana. Another essential mudra is the Kechari Mudra, where the tongue curls back to touch the soft palate. This is a more advanced technique, often taught in secret tantric circles, that seals the internal energy circuit at the highest point in the mouth, linking breath and inner energy flow in an unbroken loop. It's a powerful switch that, when combined with bandhas, creates a closed circuit for Kundalini energy to ascend safely. Each mudra you learn is like a key to a lock in your body's energetic architecture. Practicing them with breath and bandhas is not casual, it is ritualized. The body becomes an altar, the breath a flame, and your intentional locks and gestures a sacred dance of power. This process also reveals something crucial. These techniques are not about control through brute force. They are about subtlety and precision, about meeting your body's natural intelligence with awareness and respect. When you try to force the locks, you create resistance that blocks flow and leads to tension or injury. The goal is fluid containment, a soft but firm sealing that holds power without shutting down movement or breath.